What does this mean? What does this mean? This isn't even the baby. This is a whole different baby. This is the baby with the problem. Nope, now we have a problem. This baby's breathing tube came out. Tape had come loose from the skin and it came out. So now during a live surgery, we have unplanned extubation, which is a very dramatic scene because this baby's on sedation. You got to get a tube back. Well, there just happened to be another therapist at the time. His name was Mel. He doesn't work with us anymore. He was kind of a cool guy. He had a mullet. He's like, you imagine him driving a Camaro or something. I don't know. So Mel is in another room, but there's glass windows, dividers, and I see Mel looking through the window like this, and he's laughing at me, and I go, I'm pointing, and he looks. It was like a comedy show. Mel comes running in. Mel has been saving a baby behind me. Dan is helping save a baby. There's a whole team, of course, but in my mind, it's just Dan. I see these two men saving in the 10 feet of me. I about cried. I was like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. This is not what I signed up for. I thought I was going to people's houses to look at their little machine and write a number down and say, you look great. I'm out of here. That is not the case. I went home that day literally shaking, and I called my mom. I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I got myself into. This is not what you said. And she's like, Timmy, I just know that's a thing. It turns out that is a thing. There are a big spectrum of therapists, from you help people at home with their home ventilators all the way to I fly in helicopters, I fly in jets, I travel all around the East Coast with babies on a transport team. So it's a high-level transport team within the department. Before High Point was opened up, there was a Deaconess Hospital and they had a children's floor. I worked there. I don't know, the kids were what I was used to. It was easy money for me, and it was easy to care for them because there was no ER, there's no drama, there's no flying in helicopters, so it was nice. But part of me also wanted to be more than what I was, and I watched Jim Bureau, again, my mentor. He was on the neonatal transport, and I watched him suit up in the suit, orange helmet, goggles, he's got a backpack, he's climbing on a helicopter, and I'm like, this is amazing. And not for nothing, Jim's a human being, and I can do that, so pay attention. And I did, and I trained up over the years. I trained up to the stat transport team. We transport anything that's not a neonate, and a neonate is technically anybody who's up to a month old. So if you're a month old or 90 years old, you might see my face in a hospital bringing you to our hospital for surgeries or improved care or whatever. So that's something to aspire to in my department. Otherwise, not really sure what I would do with my degree. And after 15 years of it, it's been a lot of adrenaline, a lot of great times. You're on your way home after an exhausting trip to, say, Pittsburgh. Say I flew to Pittsburgh in a helicopter with a really sick child. My blood pressure's up, my hair's standing up, I'm out, but on the way home, and you're exhausted, but you feel great. You just did something great for somebody, and you're like, now I can relax and enjoy what I did. Talk about a little interesting thing that happened in our emergency room when I was new. This was 2004, which I graduated that year, and I got hired at Children's Hospital, where I said I would never work, actually, after the whole Dan Lankin incident with the two babies. So I remember when I was hired at Children's, the first thing you do is train on the floors, and you learn the basics, and you help kids get better and go home. They're already on their way out, helping get better and leave. Learn ER. We trained in the emergency department first. Nowadays we train in the PICU first. We trained in the ER first. So there I was, training in the ER, walking around, and sure enough, my pager goes off. There's a trauma coming into the code room. Old baby was coming in respiratory distress. That's right up my alley. That's my job. I call my preceptor, Lisa, somebody who was training me at the time. I said, Lisa, I got a code coming in the code room. She's like, I'm on my way, because she's going to come at me through this mess. And what a mess it turned out to be. So we get into the room, there's a doctor, there's a trainee doctor called a resident, a nurse, myself, and my other therapist, and the two EMTs who had brought this baby. Normally the EMTs will show up with a baby from an ambulance, and then they just are like, here's a quick report, we're out of here. Well, these guys decided to hang out, which was a little different than normal. So they were hanging out in the room because they were concerned. And the head doctor immediately says, we're looking at bronchiolitis, which is inflamed airways. And it's a real common thing for babies to have. And I could understand that would be your first instinct to say, this baby has this, but there was a major problem that I noticed, and Lisa agreed with me. I said, isn't this baby pulling right here? And she says, yes. And I go, that can't be bronchiolitis, that's lower airway stuff. That's an upper airway problem we're seeing. I just learned that in school, blah, blah, blah. So Lisa says, absolutely. And she tells the doctors, we think there's something wrong up here. Maybe it's croup, maybe it's something inflamed. It's not bronchiolitis. Well, this baby was getting real sick real fast. She started turning bluish. Foam was coming out of her mouth. I was like, This doesn't look normal. Like, this isn't normal bronchiolitis. They normally just breathe heavy until we give them some support. This kid was not going. So we're going to intubate, which means we put a breathing tube in this baby's airway. We sedate them so they can accept the airway and not get too anxious. And then I'll hook this bag up and I'll breathe. Things will start to improve. Well, the doctor thought it would be wise to let the resident take a look first. So she takes her tool called the laryngoscope to look in the baby's throat to put a tube in. And she looks at us and looks again. And she's,
I see the head of a screw.
And we're like, what, a screw? What do you mean the head of a screw? She's like,
you know, a screw that you screw into something? It looks like the top of one, like the X of it.
And we're like, what? So the attending looks in there. Oh my God, we're looking at the top of a screw in this baby's airway. So this screw had to be like right here into their neck. Well, you have to help this baby breathe. So I'm putting the oxygen on and I'm bagging, but if I press too hard, I felt like I could push the screw. But nobody knew what to do. They got these forceps, they tried to play with it a little, it started making the baby bleed. We were all in panic. And now we call the surgical team because they're gonna have to come and cut this baby's throat open. Because you can't get the slippery thing, you can't even touch it. We're in complete panic. For whatever reason, the resident thought in her mind, she's like,
does anybody have a magnet or something?
And we're like, oh, okay. Well, it just so happens this paramedic who had brought the baby, he pulls a pen out of his pocket and he's like, I'm a magician. And I have this trick pen in my pocket and the end of it is a 20-pound magnet. And we're all looking at him, what? And he made it this long and he hands it over and just, there's a magnet right on the end of this thing. And Lisa and I, my preceptor, are like, what in the heck? And everyone's like, okay, well, whatever. She puts it in his, and you just, and she pulls out this screw is about this long, good 2 inches long. It was a drywall screw for screwing drywall into your house. We're like, oh, wow! Like the whole room lighting up. The baby was like, started breathing. We just put a little cannula on, give it a little oxygen. We all were backing off. By the way, mom's in the room freaking out the whole time. Baby in distress has no idea there's a screw in there. Everyone just took a step back and looked at this guy, and I can tell you his last name, which is fine. He's an EMT. His name was Poole, P-O-O-L-E, and I remember it was burned in my brain going, God put you here right now at this moment with your little trick magnet, and you didn't leave the room. There's a reason why. And because of this incident, this day where we got the screw out of this baby, oh, by the way, the baby went home the next day perfectly fine. They put the screw in a little plastic container and taped it to her bed so everyone could see. It was amazing, and it was horrifying but amazing. It turns out her 2-year-old brother had been feeding her the screws. They were doing housework at the time, and they had let a screw there, and oh, eat this. So it made a new policy in our hospital. In every one of our emergency rooms, we have 4 now, code rooms, they have an extendable magnet in a drawer because of that kid. Thankfully, I've never had to use it again, but knowing that it's there, I have a little peace of mind. We went through the day that happened. It was crazy.
You gotta show me where it's at.